Mr. Z.
Mr. Z.
Well, that's not your real name, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, not even my real name.
Yeah. Now, before we do get started, I want to say welcome to those out there that are tuning into the Behind the Brand podcast. My name is Joshua Suluka. I'll be your host for today. Before we do get into introducing our special guest, I'd like to give a massive shout out to the Better Media Studio. What's your thoughts on the studio?
Oh, shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely shocked. Walking there, straight, professional, straight away. Obviously, yeah, you think a bit sketchy when you're walking in. But,
But every single guest that we've come through said the same thing.
Yeah. But it's mad, there's a gym right outside, so should have wore singlets and get a pump in.
You definitely mentioned about the aircon.
Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't really...
Yeah, I felt it straight away. I was like, I'm not going to be sitting there sweating the whole time. And so the aircon, sold.
Yeah, big shout out to Nick for that. With the Better Media Studio, it has all your needs for podcasting and or producing high quality social media content. It's a done-for-you services provided. If you want to know more, make sure you guys DM us and we'll connect you to Nikki for that. But other than that, we're going to get straight into the podcast episode. Now, I'm not going to introduce myself, and I'm not going to introduce you. You're going to introduce yourself for those out there. And the only reason why I say that is because I try to do some research, and there's not really much about you out there other than just what you do in terms of like your PT and your business. So, want to introduce yourself, bro?
Yeah, so I guess my birth name is Josiah Tamasi. So not many people know me by that. Obviously, the old early mum says that name when you're in trouble. So I haven't heard that name in a long time. My wife, she always calls me by my proper name. She actually doesn't like me using Z, which is...
That's actually the first time I met you. Like, when I first met you, that was the boy said, oh...
Yeah.
I remember we were doing work together at the open field session.
Yeah. And
then the first time I met you, they're like, oh, that's Z. Like, have a chat with him. And I'm like, bro, what a name.
What a name. Just easy.
Yeah.
Like, the whole journey of the name just quickly was, obviously, Josiah. It's a biblical name. I love it. People just lazy. They started calling me Sire. And then one of my mates called me Zaya with a Z. And I was like, hey, I like that. Spell it out. How would you spell it? And Z-I-Y-A-H. So I rolled with that, made an email, and just stuck with Zaya for a while. And then when I got into the personal training side of things, I was like, I didn't really like it. And it was just Josiah Tamasi on my profile. And later on, which I'll elaborate on, I changed it to move with Z. So Z, everyone just called me Z. And then, changed it to move with Z. My wife still gives me crap about it. She goes, I want to call you Z. So she says Z instead of Z just to piss me off. So,
Yeah. Another thing too is that I know that footy has been something that you've grown up into. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I try not to ramble on too much because it's a bit of a
journey.
Yeah, a bit of a journey. Like most of us poly boys, as soon as we can run around, we're pretty much put into a footy team. Whether we're 4 years old, it obviously starts at under sixes. We chucked in there straight away, and that was always my dream to, play top tier footy. I did that all through my youth. There was I moved probably up to under 12s. I moved to the top of the North Island just because of family stuff that went on. Ended up playing rugby up there for 2 years.
Was that here in terms of?
Oh, sorry, that was in New Zealand. So I was born and raised in New Zealand, Auckland, out west. Spent my first 12 years of my life in Auckland, just playing rugby league. Moved up north to Kaitaia for a few years. Just had to escape Auckland for a little bit with the family. Played rugby. Obviously, they love the way rugby league players defend. So I've got in there straight away into like a flanker position. Hated it. Don't like rugby. I don't even like watching it. I don't like playing it. It's just, for me, it's messy, but I did learn on later in life how tactical it is. So big respect to rugby players out there as well on that aspect. Got back to Auckland, straight back into rugby league, and sort of just, at school, made like Warriors development at that time.
Wow.
As soon as I made that, I was like, man, I'm on here. Like, I'm going to go 20s. It was when 20s just started, so I'm 33.
And was that like Toyota Cup? Or was that
That
way
was when it
before that?
was. That was the year. So 2000.
Because I remember before it was Jersey Flegg.
Yeah, it was when it was Toyota.
Which is currently what it is now.
Yeah.
But obviously it's under 21s.
Yeah, it was way back then. So I'm 33 now, and I had only just made the development squad, so it's before 20s, and I don't even think they knew what they were doing with the system back then. Spent like a pre-season in there. Eventually got cut. They didn't want me, so I was pretty much left like, hey, they're not wanted. Went and played in like a New Zealand multi tournament just to get scouted. Heard scouts were down there, and there was someone down there kind of interested. That was in the Penrith system back then. Had a trial in the Penrith SG ball team, and again, wasn't wanted. So I started thinking to myself, like, what am I doing at a young age? I thought I was going on to these big things. I had a reality check. I started just working in Auckland. First job at Foot Locker, just in retail. And then my partner at the time, she moved over to Australia. So I was like, I'm going over, I'm going to try, start again. Done my ACL, which was my first big injury. Came off that, had another knee surgery. And then because she moved, and I was, obviously in love at the time, followed her. And then to pursue rugby league as well, came over here off a knee surgery. Sort of didn't have a gym. I was just running, I think, through Parrot Park, for fitness, and started off at Wenny. So went down to Wenny Magpies. Got told to go down there for pre-season, and from there just started climbing up. So I started A grade, Sydney Shield, and then Royal Massey Cup, and then Charlie New South Wales Cup eventually. So I almost gave up a few times just because of injury, and obviously not getting selected for teams that I was, pursuing. And just been playing all my life. Like I've had like massive setbacks in terms of sport. I actually want to write an ebook, and I want to call it 10 Years Broke.
Yeah, wow.
So not financially broke, more so my body was broken. So from 2011 when I came over, all the way up until 2021, that's like a 10-year period. I got injured every year, and I got called, why are you still playing? It's dumb if you keep playing. But I don't know, I had something to prove to me, not to anyone else. It's like I knew I was capable of more, and I just kept going. And through that span of that 10 years, I've done my ACL twice, two other knee surgeries. My AC joints have popped out, a couple of hand surgeries. I tore my lat, done my back. So just over that span of time, I started to think to myself, what am I doing? And then a couple of years later, so I turned 30, I was like, I want to keep playing. Like, this was just after COVID. I was like, I got to keep playing. I want to keep playing. I got something to prove to myself. I spent my whole 20s limping around, and I just know I want to keep playing for myself, just to prove something to myself. And so that's how I got into the mobility journey, and the PT journey, which I'll elaborate on in a bit. Got into that, and I got into the mobility just to get my body right to play again after all the injuries. And I guess over time it built resilience. When I look back, I might look back at myself and be like, what an idiot. Concussions, all the many concussions that you get in the sport. At times now, I go upstairs to go get something, I've forgotten what am I getting. I don't know if that's been a male or or just all the many concussions, and it's scary. You get knocked around a lot, and it's something I'm aware of now, and playing football. So I guess more wiser. I'm trying to do everything I didn't do back then, which was rehab, prehab, preparing for footy. I'm training now how I should have trained in my 20s, but I'm playing now better than I was in my 20s. Like fine wine, it's getting better with time. So, and that's what I'm really tried proving when I got into PT was, and this year, a big shout out to Drew for opening that passage for me, which was training athletes. So last year I really knuckled down. I applied my own methods on myself, which was mobility and explosive training and recovery. So I put those three together throughout the whole year and had a really successful season, and allowed me to start my first athletes group. So I wanted people to know that, he's about it. I wanted people to be attracted to me for that point, that he walks it, he lives it, and he breathes it. and I want people to want to be trained by that. So I started my first athletes group this year, and that's why we had the collab with Healthy Hustle, Michael and Drew, and then I guess that's led to how I met you, really. And that was my first year. Last year was had a couple of my athletes there. Obviously, Michael had a lot there of his athletes, which was like real good to see as well. It was like humbling experience.
Was that your first, by the way? Like session
Collab?
together? Yeah.
Yeah, I've done one with Drew, like a smaller one, but that was our first 3 together, and it's something we always spoke about.
I'll tell you right now, bro, it was hectic. Like, it was really good.
Yeah, like I loved it. I was like, wow, like, the bro, and it's me and Drew got similar styles, and Mike's obviously speed, but I try to really implement that. At end range, get stuck in any sticky positions. You can come out of it, injury free. But whereas flexibility is a little bit different, you might not have that end range strength, and some people are born with flexibility, and they don't really lose it. So I try and sort of preach that and try and build that in with performance. That's the journey anyway. That is the goal, to try and close that gap between performance and mobility, and try and let the rest sort of fold in. Rambled on a bit.
Nah, that's fine, bro. That's all good. I just wanted to bring it back to, you playing footy, because obviously that's something that you consider, like you're still doing now. You had a game last week.
Yeah, I had a game.
Yeah, how did that go?
Yeah, funny you said that, because that game I played. So the game was a country rep team. I play now in the country Group 6 comp. It's like semi-pro, like same level as Ron Massey Cup. Kinda.
You did play like Ron Massey in that?
Yeah, I played at a few clubs in Sydney, Hills Bulls.
Because I know that you said that you played at Winnie's.
Winnie, yeah, that was my start, and I might eventually go back there and retire. It'll be a cool story for myself.
Like a start and ending.
Yeah, start and ending. Like, big ups to that club. They gave me sort of an opportunity to then obviously go on to other clubs, and obviously there's money involved, and gave me that experience to go and go out to all these other clubs and sort of build my name from there. And I got to represent my new way rugby league, so that was massive for me, representing my dad's side. But back to the game in the weekend. So it's a rep team. The best players out of the Group 6 competition get put together, and they play their best team. And kind of felt like a little kid again, making a rep team, and definitely went out there not thinking I was 33 and on coming towards the end of my career, which is and it went well. It was a good game. We won, and that was the rep team. And I didn't get to play for my club in the weekend. They had a trial, but yeah, it went well, man. Came out with no injuries, and pretty much ready to get into the season now with my club.
So was that just a one-off game? Or was that like...
It's a knockout. So this week we got the Newcastle. So we had Illawarra on the weekend, the best out of that conference, and then we have the best out of the Newcastle conference this weekend. And the winner goes forward and plays like Canberra or the other teams, whoever makes it through. Knockout format. Yeah.
It sounds to me it's more of like a country format. Because obviously you have the Ron Massey, the Sydney Shield, and I know that they've got their rep teams like later on.
So the country, the best out of all those conferences, will get the one country team will get picked, and they'll play the Ron Massey City team. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, and that's how they make the competition later on. Yeah, makes sense. It's crazy, man. Like, because I think the highest that I played was Sydney Shield. Yeah, that was back in 2020 during COVID. Yeah, that was a weird season, bro.
Oh,
Like, yeah, everyone, obviously all the clubs end up folding.
Yeah.
There was a lot of clubs, and then they ended up formatting a new competition just for that 1 year.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But I even know myself, like I carried injuries playing like as I was growing up.
Where was that at? Where was you play?
I was playing a ride. Yeah,
Oh,
Ride Eastwood.
they were,
Yeah, we ended up making the grand final and then we lost to I think Cronulla.
yeah.
Yeah, the Shark Boys.
Yeah. I remember that period. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I tore my lat against Ride. Man, might have played against you.
When was this?
It was that COVID. You know, they stopped the season.
Yep.
And then they continued on again.
Yeah.
I went back to help my mate that was coaching Winnie. I gave up the serious footy and I just went and played Shield for him. And we played.
For who? Did you play for
Winnie? Yeah, we went and played Ride there and Ride pumped us. I tore my lat.
Yeah, I did play that game.
I tore my lat in that game.
I did play that game.
Yeah, no. And yeah, that's how.
You know what's funny? You saying that you tore your lat. I ended up. It's probably something that I've been like. You know how we. I think it's not just bodies. I think it's just men in general. We just cover things up like, oh yeah, we're fine. But I remember I was going to. I think I was gonna save like a try or something like that. But I think I overextended my joints in my knees, like around my knees, and I've been walking it off the whole time.
Yeah.
But I know that there's a problem there, so it was definitely that game.
Yeah, wow.
And bro, I was just like you now, which is I was coming off the bench.
Yeah. You spoke.
That's interesting.
Yeah, no, because I and then it takes me back to listening to I think Falalo's podcast on the weekend and how he spoke about possibly seeing you, in a previous event, and then later on, actually, meeting you properly, and it's funny how you cross paths.
That's funny, bro.
Way before in life, and then you obviously cross again, and that was a mad season. Also reminds me that year I went to Windsor, so Windsor came back in the comp. Ron Massey, like one of the boys, talked me into playing serious footy, and I was like, yeah, why not? Let's go. And I was fit, I was ready to go, and Fiji came into the comp.
Yes.
So, and we happened to strike Fiji round 1.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is mad, free trip to Fiji. So I got a free trip there. It was mad. They pumped us, flogged us, came back, and then the whole season was cancelled. So
bro, that was crazy, man.
Walked away from it like, at least, we got to go to Fiji. I broke my wrist in that game too. So just injuries.
Yeah. But you know what? Like one thing I will mention about, because I think so obviously the way that I met you was through the open field session that we had done before Chrissy. And then once I'd done that, obviously I was doing work with Michael, and then I was doing the videos for you guys. And then I had to go through your Instagram, just to see how your flow and stuff is and your formatting. Then I looked at one of your, I don't know if it was a recent photo or post, or if it was a pinned photo on Instagram, and it was a photo of you. I think you were warming up at Cabra. I think you're playing for LCC, and you had all these injuries.
Oh, that was Niue,
yeah.
No, that was Niue.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Cabra, and that was for Niue,
Yeah. So when I seen that, it's funny. I looked at that and I reflected on myself, and I was like, oh, I'm probably the same too in terms of the amount of injuries.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you from that, and to for you to still be playing, what keeps you going in terms of playing, knowing that you're carrying these injuries, or there's certain injuries that you're still healing from, or I know that one thing you were talking about before we started was your hip.
Yeah, no, my hip's playing up. I just got enough knowledge around now to manage that. And I don't I dropped I don't use age as an excuse anymore. Yeah. I've got, ever since I started the mobility journey, I've gotten rid of that excuse, because it's an excuse. I do remember,
just following up on what you just said there, I remember we were doing a session together, and it was with your athletes, and then we done I think you had one of your youth, one of the younger boys come through. Yeah. And I remember one thing that you mentioned, which is age doesn't matter when it comes to mobility.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you're 20. Because I remember you were saying that you had a client that you worked with. He's in high school, I think, and I think in the basketball scene.
Rugby league. Yeah,
rugby league.
He plays a lot of sport.
Yeah, he plays a lot of sports. But one thing that you notice is that at his age and his mobility should be at a certain like threshold, and he's like,
yeah, you should never,
yeah,
you should never, you should never lose. You should never. I think you should never lose it as a youth. And again, like I keep going off the questions, but
yeah,
I that's another thing as well. I want to create generational change, and I think we speak on that a lot. And it's not just about whether it's growing up in this certain circumstance or growing up doing, you know, us polys doing this certain job or whatever, and trying to break that cycle. But for me, I want to break that cycle of, you know, we grow up as youth, crazy squats, like we don't think about it as babies, you know, and then somewhere in the, you know, teenage years, whether it's we're sitting down at school so much, we lose our, you know, the way our body should function, and I want to you know, kind of break that cycle and try and tap into youth. It's just a very boring subject, I guess. Sorry, boring way of movement for youth, because they're used to obviously competitive stuff, and trying to make that attractive to youth is I guess the selling point. Because if we can change that, then you're going to get, you know, players, you know, when they go on from being teenagers to jumping into, I guess, the NRL, and, you know, after a long time, there's a lot of wear and tear and people doing their knees and shoulders and hips and whatnot. But you can sort of plug into the youth and get that being attractive, then in their 20s, when they're playing a high level, they're not going to be, you know, subject to injury as much as they are now. I think, anyway. Could be wrong. America does it really well. Like in their colleges and high school, they do a lot of pre-work and mobility, and a lot of prep for sessions as a collective. So I like doing that style of mobility with my athletes. So shout out to my guinea pigs / athletes. You know, we go through group mobility just to see, because, you know, one person might be really tight, then they see someone else really tight, or they might see someone that's really flexible. So they're in the moment live trying to strive to be, you know, in that position. So yeah, trying to keep that with the youth, and so they can take it on to their adult life. And that story is actually a good one, because the youth I was training that day, I trained his dad as well. So his dad actually brought his son, and he said, I want to do a checkup for my son. He's been playing a lot of sport back to back, rugby league, touch. Just want to check up, is he moving right? Which he is moving pretty good. So again, this goes back to the flexibility and mobility side.
And I remember you mentioning that in the video, you were saying, when you're doing the client work, one thing I did catch from that was you were talking about the difference between flexibility and mobility, and how one is, I know definitely the mobility side is like having the strength to get back up. That was one thing that I got out of that. Do you want to touch a bit about?
Yeah, so that? There's like a movement called one thing I use as an example, there's a movement called the reverse Nordic. So it's where a Nordic is where you test your hamstrings. So the reverse Nordic is where you're sort of sitting in a prayer position, sitting on your heels, the hips on, and you're trying to, I guess, lean back as far as you can towards the ground, which it's a massive stretch for your hips and your quads. I got clients that can get all the way to the ground, which is mad, but they can't get up. They need help to get up. Okay, so that for me is a good display of, you know, strength through mobility, or not. Like, you might be flexible, you can get down there, like clap, but can you get back up? And so I think that's where the mobility strength part comes into play. Do you have the strength in your hips to pull yourself up? Do you have the strength in your quads to pull yourself up? You know, if you don't, obviously, I use it as like a exposing point to try and get them to realize that the difference between the two, and then what we need to work on. So, and that was, you know, the same with the youth that I got in there. Obviously he wasn't too bad with flexibility, but when it came to end range strength, very weak, like simple movements of lifting up your leg off the ground and working on, you know, getting told what a hip flexor is, or your psoas muscle, or all these technical terms behind the hip. They don't know what the hip actually, you know, all the muscle groups within the hip. So once you start teaching them that, they sort of get in sync with their body, and they start knowing what's actually going on down there, whether I'm weak there, or, you know, I need to stretch. And it's actually a journey I want to, you know, go on, you know, learning more about biomechanics as well. You know, that's probably something else that's sort of next for me, is learning about that, knowing if a client needs the mobility work, or is it something, you know, a deeper underlying issue. I'd love to be able to peel that stuff back. forgot the question.
That's fine. That's all good. I'll just like follow up with what you mentioned. I do want to just say this right now. There's probably people out there listening to this podcast. We've got new, obviously, our behind the brand like followers and community, like listening. And obviously, got your own, followers that are coming through. But if there's one thing that I can definitely say about you, is that you're very knowledgeable when it comes to the flexibility and mobility. How did you get involved in that? Like, what was the starting point of you? Kind of having that.
Yeah, so I saw Troy Savage and Mobility. So a lot of people know him. He's sort of the first one to introduce mobility to the rugby league scene, and he's got to put a bit of a profile to himself as well. He's been in the top tier systems, and he knows what it takes to be an NRL player, and he knows the strains it puts on the body. So he came up with this really good system around mobility and relatable mobility to sport as well, to field sport, not just rugby league. And when I saw that, I saw some, mutual friends doing it as well. And, I remember when he used to just do it at a park with some of the boys, to then going on to his online business. And again, if you remember me saying about wanting to play again, but wanting to play to my full potential, I thought, I need to invest in myself here if I want to keep playing, not just say, I want to play and then chuck on the boots, go pre-season, get injured again. Like, I actually had to tap in. And for me, COVID was a blessing in that sense. I know there's a lot of blessings that came out of COVID, but for me, it allowed me time to really knuckle down on that mobility training and his journey. So I jumped on his online program. Man, I was broken. Some of the measures and that he would get me to do, like the couch stretch. For those who know what that is, it's a really intense stretch. You'd have to send through pictures, even toe touches.
I think the couch, if I remember correctly, the couch stretch is where you have the wall.
Yeah.
And then
back foot's up.
Yeah, back foot's up. Yeah.
And if you haven't done that stretch before, if you can picture a old broken person trying to put their foot on the wall and just the sight wasn't a good one at all. And to see that and look back on that picture to where I've come now, I've learnt it, and then now to be able to teach it and then learn more about how to get to that position faster now through my own experiences. It's amazing what the body can do, and so that's a big shout out to Troy Savage for sort of introducing me to that, and now I want to. And I told him that when I sort of stopped doing that was about 2 years.
Yeah,
so
right.
It was on and off. Like, I went through my own injuries, I went through, stuff in my life, and I would stop here and there, but I still learned the good foundations of it. And one thing, I guess that I struggled with was he could fold like a piece of paper. He's big guy, similar size to me, a little bit more ripped, but he could fold like a piece of paper. And like, I used to be like, that used to stop me from progressing. I used to be like, why can't I that? And I had to strip it all back and understand that he had me playing the game for 5 years, and when you're playing, and he focused on that. He had a starting point as well, and I had to realize that I'm coming to him broken. I can't expect to move like that, and I can't expect to fold like that if I'm still playing as well. Because field sport, jacking up your hips, contact, shoulders, everything just gets all tight, and it's like almost you take one step forward and 2 steps back after playing in the weekend.
And so even just a recovery period too.
So just tighter than usual. So all those battles you had to play, and I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to venture out, on my own. I'm going to learn a bit more about my body, and then so I did that, and yeah, I learned a lot about my body, and then I said to myself, look, I don't need to fold like a piece of paper. I just need to get enough knowledge to be able to pass it on to someone that I do want to teach, that wasn't even the goal when I started PTing, to be honest with you. And I don't know if you want me to elaborate on that now or after, why I got into PT.
We'll definitely go into it very soon. So that's how you went through. So I started with Troy. Shout out to Troy.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I've actually seen his stuff. Like, he's very high profile when it comes to the mobility space.
Get him on here.
Yeah, definitely got to reach out. Definitely reach out to him. And it's funny. I've actually done. I've done the ATG.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I invested in that in COVID.
Yeah.
So all the couch stretches, the 90, like all the stuff that you were doing, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I've seen this, I've done it before.
Mad.
And I remember when I was doing the stretch, like I had to put. Can I ask? Is the reason why it's called a couch stretch is because you start off with the couch?
Yeah, I think.
Because I like when I started, I remember like they said, oh, just get a chair, get a couch, and then just put your leg there. That's how you start, and then obviously you go to the wall and progress.
I don't know why it's called a couch stretch, because it sounds really lazy. And if someone tried to sell me that stretch, I'd be like, no,
I don't
I'm trying to get out of that cycle. But yeah, I think it's because you start off at the beginner level with the foot on a couch. Or I guess a couch is always around at home, or a chair, and then you eventually
progress
get to the wall version, the advanced version, and then once I got to that, I found out other ways to advance the stretch, and especially when I had clients that are more, flexible, but than myself. So
definitely gonna have a chat with Troy about that. But yeah, going back to the question I was asking you, is just like the knowledge, like, bro, you're so knowledgeable in it, and I understand why, because obviously you've gone through the stages of like carrying a lot of injuries and wanting to be able to like manage that, but also become better, reach your fullest potential.
Yeah.
And so following up that question, I wanted to ask around, so obviously like you've done work with Troy, and then I remember you having a conversation with me previously about like the books that you've read and all the knowledge. Is that something that has been an additional part to your to where you are, mobility and mobility, flexibility?
Yeah, because I guess when you get into PT work, you get your Cert 3, which is group training, Cert 4, personal training. You get taught, only so much, and a lot of the experiences need to be done, on hand. And a friend of mine, a real close friend of mine, and if he watches this, he'll know it's from him. He said to me, and we had this, he's like a mentor to me, like really, really close friend. And once we talk about the PT stuff, I'll touch on that. But he said to me, because I was explaining to him how, there's, some PTs that have been in the PT game a long time, but I feel like I'm passing them. I'm not trying to sound, cocky at all, but just in terms of, results don't lie, that type of thing. And also explained all that, and he said to me, man, you don't get scars from the textbook. And then that sat with me so much, because I'm like, yeah, I've only done, my Cert 3 and 4, just like a lot of the other PTs. But, I realized that all these years of, being broken, all these injuries that have built up this perseverance have, made me battle strong. So I didn't get those scars from, the textbook, but I got the scars from being out in battle, like, on the field, or whether it's training myself, and then eventually using those scars to, I guess, teach it now, and also make myself better and the next generation. So, and built to broken, I think it's called, that book as well. That is a very good book to read as well if you're getting into like the mobility stuff. But I'm trying not to get labelled as the mobility guy, to be honest, as well, because I have so much more to offer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah. Like, you definitely, like, from the work that I've seen and the work that I've done with you, in terms of content and stuff, I've noticed that you have far more of a better, in terms of like depth and range, in terms of the services that you can provide out there, which we'll definitely get into later on to come to the PT stuff. But yeah, before we do get into, because we haven't even got into the meat behind it. That's the thing I love about like what we're doing, having the conversation.
Crazy.
Yeah. So we're definitely going to get into it very, very soon. But before we do, I definitely want to do a quick icebreaker question.
Yep.
And the main purpose as to why I want to do this is I want to get to know a different side to Z that a lot of people don't see.
Yep.
So my question to you is, what makes you tick?
What makes me tick is like,
what makes you
pisses me off.
Yeah.
Nah.
What makes Z tick?
Like angry, or just keep going? Like, what makes me Angry.
I was probably looking more so the angry side of things.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
like, you know, what frustrates you, what, you know. Here I'm thinking like, oh, I should have just mentioned that at the start because I'm like, bro.
Probably members when you're gym members when you're explaining a demo and then 1 second later they ask, "What are we doing?" That's probably what ticks me off. Nah, jokes. That's a complicated one for me because I don't really show too much emotion, if I'm quite honest, and I think it's due to a lot of things I've been through. The past 10 years and just trying to hide emotions. So, but I think that's as well. That's why I play rugby league, to be honest, because a lot of people are like, bro, is that you on the field? Like you're so calm, collective in person, and then
I've heard about
and then you go out on the field, you cross the line, and you turn into this animal, and it's something I don't really realize until I look back, on myself, and I don't know what it is. I don't know. Yeah, I don't have no idea what it is. I don't even know if we talk about trauma and childhood trauma, and I'm gonna smile about it because I want to talk about it without getting upset. But yeah, my old man was aggro dude, and I'm sure he'll listen to it. I might actually send the edits to him, but my old man was very very aggro dude, and growing up, I think you either go that way or you don't, and I think I kind of went the opposite way, but I feel like maybe potentially when I do play, that part of him comes out. I don't know. I really don't know what it is. Maybe I need to see a counselor or something, but I do get very angry on the field, and I take it out on people I come up against, and if we talk about life in general,
what makes
me
tick? Yeah.
Nah, you know what? This is probably a dumb one, but at home, like I do bottle stuff up, and it's like keep receipts or something. Like if somebody's at home with the wife's not, I'll let it slide, but I bank it up, and it just emotionally bottles up, and I'm a bit of OCD. I wouldn't say OCD, but I like
things in a certain way.
Clean, in a certain way, and it's crazy. Like I have to make sure this exposed me a bit, but gotta make sure light switches are off at home, and it's just if something's disturbed me, or even if stuff's not clean, like in the kitchen, or cleaned a certain way. Sound like a female right now, but if things aren't cleaned a certain way, like it really ticks me off. I get really angry, like at my wife too. I'm like, why you clean stuff that way, or why it's like I like to have control in that space, and I guess I do like cleaning. That's at home. Probably get angry at little things like that, and I'm human, so don't judge me. But nothing, nothing out of the ordinary. Like you have, other things around. Obviously, if someone disrespects you, respect's massive for me. All those little things, loyalty, respect, all those kind of things. Actually, that's a lie. I sort of would just cut someone off, to be honest. If I come across that, I went, just straight. Like I'll wake up if someone does me wrong, and it hasn't happened too often because I don't really surround myself with people like that. And
obviously surround yourself with like-minded people.
Yeah, but if someone did, like I'm that kind of guy that see ya. Like I'll wake up the next day and make my bed. If I did nothing wrong. But if I did something wrong, I'll be the first one to come to you and say that I've stuffed up, because my conscience just eats me alive from I think from my youth, like had a big conscious issue where if you do that wrong, it was like that good and bad on the shoulder. It's like I was more that good that was louder than the bad, and if you do that, that's wrong. This is going to happen, and so like anything that happens, I close it out, straight away with anybody, my wife, my kids. If I do wrong, I'll be the first one to say I did wrong. Wife won't agree with that, but that's different territory. So not too much makes me. You know what? Actually, you know what, coming to Australia, like drivers. Yeah, actually, that drivers in Australia are terrible. No matter what nationality, like in New Zealand, nice. You put your blinker on, someone will let you through straight away. Over here, like you know, most times you got to wait for 2 cars to pass by, and a real picky one is actually you know, when you're, sorry if you do this, but when you're reversing out of a driveway or you're going to reverse into a driveway, and then, you know, a car's coming, and they can't just wait till you're finished, because you might have to, you know, straighten up. They just try and, you know, fit through any small gap, and it's like, bro, do you want to crash? I swear, if I had all the money in the world, I'd ram their car just to you know, send them a message that, come on, man, life's not that, you know, what is so important that you need to get to have to squeeze through here. And I think that's the rat race of Sydney, to be honest. Like, we're all stuck 100%. In this mind frame. Yeah, I'm not really like that. And man, I was late today. Like, I prioritize other things. Like, my daughters were sick. I was like, I'll just get them, you know, sorted and help the wife out. And like, so like, I'm pretty cruisy, but I'm late to a lot of places because of that. So, and I don't like people thinking it's me being disrespectful, because I know, you know, it is a respect thing if you that you show up on time.
Yep.
But for me, I feel like it's kind of been a detriment to me being so cruisy. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I'm never late for, man, I don't think I've ever been late to a class, a personal training class, within my control. I've been stuck in traffic before, but I don't think I've actually ever been late to a PT. Yeah. Only if I'm stuck in traffic, I've been late. It's probably something to look at. Yeah.
No. And it's funny, bro. All this that you just shared all came out of one question, which is what makes you think.
Yeah, it made me think. So
yeah, it definitely made you think. There's actually a few things I want to just uncover before we go in, because you shared a lot of information.
I talk too much.
That's good.
I don't.
No, you know what? Like the way I see it, because I'm the same too. Like I can go on, I can ramble. Like my fiance knows that for sure. Yeah. But I've learned over time to be doing more this than this.
Yeah.
But the great thing I love about podcasting is that it's the only time you can. Cause you think about it, like if you're just gonna be like, "Hey, how are you? Oh yeah, good.
Yeah, true.
You know, so definitely, I already know right now that there are people out there getting value. I'm getting tons of value too, from what you're sharing. So don't feel bad, man. It's good. Yeah. It's good. You're doing well. But what I wanted to do is, you know, there's a few things I just wanted to point out. The first thing I did that I wanted to point out right now is you were mentioning about the way that you tick on the field and how you have that, you know, different element of your calm outside, and then like you're this, you know, aggressive aggro dude on the field. And funny enough, I think one of the boys did talk to me about how you play on the field, and it's like, bro, he's a different element. I always see that as like an alter ego. Like you got that alter ego of like you got a different side to yourself, and I think we all do. Like everyone has a different side, and I think it's healthy, the fact that you can be able to do that. I for sure couldn't. Like when it comes to jumping on the field, I find it really hard for me to tick and like go into that like space, and it's mainly because, and the boys out there that, you know, that used to play for me, they would understand. It's like in terms of me getting like aggressive and angry on the field, it took me a lot longer to get to that point. And the reason why is because I was always trying to carry, you know, you're the same person on and off the field. And then for you, you've done the complete opposite, where you're like, nah, this is who I am in reality, but I've got this different dog, you know, in me on the field. And the one thing I did, you know, receive from that is I like to see it like chaos and order. So like you have an ordered side to yourself, then you got the chaotic side.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about your father and about how, you know, he was, you know, aggro dude for you growing up.
Yeah.
And it might have some sort of connection to that. But one thing I did want to just mention is that it's okay to have that, you know, have that alter ego side. I think a lot of people might see that as something that is like fake. Like, oh, you know, you're one person here, but another person there.
Yeah.
But we all have different sides to ourselves and different elements.
Yeah. Nah, definitely. I guess the fake stood out there for me because like I'm not fake, and I know that's
Exactly.
not what you're getting at, but
Yeah.
like how I am behind closed doors is like that's how you'll get or what you'll get from me, and there's some things I keep sacred to myself, like prayer and scripture reading and that. I don't share that a lot. I don't feel I have to. That's between my relationship between me and God, and I'm not there to preach on a mountaintop and say I do this, I do that. Like that's pretty sacred to me and my family. The whole dad thing. My father was. It's kind of, I guess. Yeah, without going into detail on childhood and that, like, so like, really aggro, whatever. Like my parents split when I was very young, but I wouldn't know. I don't think I'd be who I am today if it wasn't for him, because he taught me so much about about God and life, and we would sit there for hours, like from night time to morning, just talking about the Bible and and God and Christ and everything, and just it turned into a history lesson. And like people would definitely judge my dad by the cover. So I grew up, I didn't plan on saying this at all, but like I grew up as a, do you know what Rastafarian?
Yep.
So I don't think many or anyone knows that about me. But like I grew up, that was my faith growing up, and a lot of people think they're weed smokers and dreadlocks and whatever they might think of a Rastafarian. But for me, I tapped into the faith side of it, and they believe in Jesus Christ and God, and it's just real rootsy. Like it takes you back to the beginning, Adam and Eve, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the whole lineage. And my dad told me that it's just a history book. Like the Bible is a history book, and I got taught to read it a chapter a day. Another thing no one knows about me, and I don't know if that's a question coming up, but like, damn, getting deep. Like, I spoke about conscious before. Why I spoke about that was because like, at a very, very young age, at 8, I picked up the Bible and I tried to read it how we got taught, which was a chapter a day. We used to get told a chapter a day keeps the devil away. And then so at the age of 8, tried picking it up, and I couldn't understand it or comprehend it. I think I got halfway through Genesis and put it back down. I was like, nah, that's for later. I asked my dad, why this, why that, and he would tell me, maybe now's not the time, but we'd have these talks about, again, God and that, and then, the next thing he might be like beating on my mum or something, so I was like, growing up, I'll be like the same, mouth that is, or person that's telling me this, has been this kind of man towards my, my mother, and so like I had to, comprehend what was going on at the time, and I sort of had to pick, very mature decision as a youth. I had to pick like, hey, that's whatever's going on between my mum and him, or whatever he's battling. That's your battle. I'm gonna take the good from you. And then I picked up the book again when I was 14. 14. And that was when, like, it took me 3.5 years to read. And as a youth, like, at 14, I shouldn't be, all every other 14-year-olds, doing whatever. And that opened up my conscience so much, man. Like, I felt like, as a youth, I felt like, any little thing I did wrong, I was going to be, judged for it and all that. And not a bad thing at all. But I think that really set me up for life, to be honest with you. And I was able to make mature decisions and be a good person. I really strive to be a good person. And I think that's what set me up for that. And and just the fact how he taught me was that, the Bible's a history book. You're not going to find God in that book, but God dwells in your heart. And that really sat with me, because at the end of the day, he does. He dwells in the heart of mankind. We were made in his image, and he's not going to be found in a book, but the book's a guidance, for us to follow. And sometimes it's all we have to follow. I know there's many books out there, but that was, the book that I got taught to read, and it sat with me, and he's read it 4 times, I think. And remember, this is a guy that was Jake the Muscle, my mum, like, you know what I mean? So And that's a battle that I had to, and still to this day, like talk to my siblings, and they have their own trauma, and I just found out this, recently, I spoke to this sibling, and they opened up about some things I didn't know about, and then another sibling opened up about this, and I just realized everyone's got their own trauma, and I'm living over in Australia, so my way, might have to pay for therapy lessons. It's the first time I actually have spoken about it. If I can,
bro. First of all, before you continue on, I really appreciate you doing this. Yeah. Like, so don't feel like. Very grateful for this, man.
Temperature's heating up. Try not to. The last time I sort of spoke about this was with my wife, and try not to get upset. And but everyone had their own trauma. What I realized, trauma, and I guess my way was escaping it, and I didn't. I just left. Australia and New Zealand. But when I look back on it, I'm like, once I left, I never really wanted to go back. To be honest with you, and I don't know if there was something deep down. I went back recently, and it confirmed. It confirmed for me that I don't want to go back there, because everyone's, in the same, doing the same thing back there, and like I love my family to bits, but like that's not the kind of people that I want to be around, and that takes a lot of courage to say, and if my family do hear this, they might get upset, but for me to grow, I had to get myself out of that environment and know that I'm not going back. Like, so I came back from a recent trip, and I said to my wife, I said, this is home. Like, it took a while to come to terms with that, because we would talk, with friends, and they'll be like, when are you going home? But for me, someone says that now, like, home's here, and I have my family back there, and everybody, I'm here by myself. So I came back, and I said to my wife, I said, I've never wanted to buy a house before, to be honest with you. I said, we're gonna save up, we're gonna find somewhere here, we're gonna buy a house, and we're gonna call this home and start something for ourselves. And so I was just closing that chapter, and sort of went off again.
That's fine, bro.
Went off again there. But
we're just going back. So bringing it back to what, like, how this all sparked. I was just talking about the alter ego. And like how you're on the field and off the field. You mentioned about, like, something that I'm getting out of you is that you're very integrous in terms of, like, your identity and yourself, and kind of shared about your family and stuff. And it's the funny thing about the conversation today is that we're actually meant to be talking about the business side of things, and you've been sharing about, but like, you've been sharing. No, but we're definitely going to get into that. We've still got time, but it actually made me think about, because I remember you put a post out, like a story on the questions, like you're asking your followers on Instagram, that you're going to be jumping on a podcast. And I remember one thing that you mentioned, which is, and you shared this on your Instagram story. You mentioned that you're going to be jumping on the podcast, first one, and then you mentioned that it's behind the brand, and they're looking at who is behind the brand and behind the business. And I thought about that, and I was like, because we have like a certain goal that we're wanting to achieve, which is like we're wanting to uncover the stories behind the business and the brand of the band, or of the business and brand that you're currently in. So for you, it'd be like Move Z. But I've noticed within the past episodes that a lot of it has got to do with the person behind the business. Like I've just noticed that now, which is hectic, and I love that. And I think the feedback that we've been getting is that people are wanting to know who's actually behind the person, like who's the person behind the business. And I think that's probably one thing I'm getting out of this conversation. I just wanted to acknowledge that what you're sharing, bro, isn't just hitting me, but there's other people out there that's definitely going to be touching when this goes out. Yeah. How do you feel about that, knowing that? Because I know that you just realize, oh man, I talk a lot.
And you just like reflect now, like I'm like, wow, I never thought I'd say some of those things. Like I just said, some of that stuff was sacred to me, and no one can judge me for that. Like I try and move at my own pace, and if I want to keep stuff to myself, I'll keep stuff to myself. And I guess my mentality is, oh well, it's out, like next job, like it's just that next job mentality. And you know, I guess, and in my life, like the same thing. Like no, like I don't really have much emotion. It's like when my daughter was born, my second daughter, um, my mum's or my wife's mum was in the room, and she was saying after the labour was only like 4 hours, and then she was saying to my wife after, she's like, "What's wrong with Josiah? Like, he's got no emotion. Like, is he okay? Like, I was pretty much there holding her hand, squeezing her hand, not even cheering her on, and it's like, it's just that, okay, it's out. Like, next job, what do I got to do now? And when stuff goes wrong in my life, like, I deal with it, and then it's like, next job, I don't like dwelling on it, because I think that's linked to that whole conscious thing, because I know what eat me alive, so I've learned to just be done with something, especially if it's something wrong or negative. Like, okay, what's what's next? It happens all the time at home with the kids. Or, if one of them fall over or if someone breaks something, it's like, okay. Or even money decisions, same thing. Like I never had much growing up, and I don't want to sound cliche in that, but like I don't think most of us did have much growing up, and I would spend my last $10 on on food, like legit, like because that's just how I am, and my wife's always like, you're careless with money, you buy whatever you want, you don't think about anything after, and I'm like, yeah, like
you kind of just like make the decision to move on.
You order too much food when you go out, and it's like, yeah, well, I used to fight over food when I was younger. So like I just not too, and that's something I want to grow as well, is just start being more smarter with the money, which I am now. A lot better with making decisions, but still have that careless factor.
Yeah,
I don't really care. Money comes and goes, and it's another thing behind like who and how I want to be and how I want to leave this place. Like that's why I don't have tattoos. A lot of people are like, you don't have tattoos. Like it's like, yeah, I came to this earth without tattoos, so I'm leaving it. And that came from my dad too, and he's tatted up from like all over his arms. Yeah, so. But he said to me, don't get him, man. Like, you came to this planet, Earth, without that, leave without it too. So, I keep forgetting the questions, man.
It's fine. One thing I do want to mention, you mentioned about your father. Yeah. You're a father yourself.
Yeah.
You've got your son in here. He's been sitting here for what, an hour?
He's doing well too.
Yeah.
Like I'm sending him telepathic messages saying, shut up. Father of 3.
Yeah.
Hey, he's almost 9. 9-year-old boy to a previous partner. We'll just call it a high school, thought it was a high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
Obviously grow apart in that aspect. Later on in life, things don't work out. And then I have 2 daughters, a 2-year-old and 10-month old. 2 girls, Giselle and Zara. And then my son Josiah.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll probably incorporate the name H. But another biblical name. Yeah. In my son, and it's funny that I knew that name as I was on that journey reading the Bible. When I heard it, I said, when I have a son, that's going to be my son's name. So, 10 years later, when I did have him, I said to my partner at the time, it's Josiah, and I think that means the fire within God or something like that, or I can't remember the exact meaning, but my whole family's got meaning to their names, and I wanted his name to have a meaning. I think it's light in God or something like that. Yeah, but my son.
Yeah, we're going to him up very, very soon. But before we do, when it comes to Moves with Z, right, we're going to transition to the business side of things. And I want to get an understanding as to, why you keep doing what you're doing within the business. And I know that you mentioned that one thing that plays a part is that boy right there. Yeah. So do you want to just talk us through in terms of Moves with Z, the business side of things? Yeah. Like we'll start off with what started it.
Yep.
What started with Moves with Z, and then we'll transition into why.
Yeah. So what started it was obviously plain and simple. I copied an American guy that was doing the same sort of style. His name was Move with Derek.
Yeah.
And I know in Australia we use Derek as what a Derek like, and then yeah, found it was funny, but I was like, if I put a Z on it, it sounds really, I guess, you know,
Unique.
yeah, unique. And I was like, everyone's calling me Z, so I roll with move with Z. If I take that back a year, when I started getting into PTing and pushed into that aspect, I didn't have a niche at the time. I was just I got a call from a friend just after COVID. He said, "Bro, when are you gonna, you're training at 4 a.m. with the boys. Sometimes you write up the sessions, like you have potential. One day I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna need you. Get your certs." And then I was like, "Bro, you know what? You've probably called me a million times about this. I'm gonna get my certs." And I was like, I was gonna give up rugby league as well. So I was gonna stop playing, and I needed something to fill that void. It was never about, and this is funny, and hopefully don't lose clients over this, but this is raw. I didn't get into PT to help people. Like, I didn't. It was just literally to fill that void of rugby league. I was always used to working and playing rugby league, working and doing something else, working and having something else to gravitate towards. So I was like, I'm just going to fill that void with personal training. And then that same week, I caught up with my close circle of friends, and I had my real close mate who I feel was kind of a mentor to me, the Fibre King, as he calls himself, Fibre King now. So have a little laugh when he sees this. He bought into a business in Des Moines called U Wellness. So it's a recovery center and a PT studio. Once I told him I'd got my certs or working towards it, he said, "Bro, you want a job?" He goes, "I'll get you in straight away. Like, I know you have heaps of potential and you know what you want to do." And I was like, and I had to start off with group training, which was a F45 that they co-owned at the time. I had to, obviously speak in front of 20 people, 20 plus people. I just said, stuff it, like, yeah, let's do it. Like, get me in there. And, within 2 weeks, I went from a mate saying, get your certs, had signed up somewhere straight away, to getting a bit of that done. And then, coaching at F45, which is where most, PTs, sort of start. Didn't know my niche at the time. And yeah, I'll just continue to be thrown in the deep end. And I don't know if it, the co-owner at the time planned this, but there was one time I rocked up to class. I was early, obviously nervous, and it was probably session 3 I'd been running, so I'd been shadowing for a bit, and he's not there, and I'm there by myself. There's about 30 people in class, and this is Des Moines. Obviously, there's a different
demographic
area
compared to Western Sydney.
Yeah, Western Sydney, you kind of feel at home, but we're dealing with those people respectfully,
and the high status too.
Yeah. And so he isn't coming. I wait for 5 minutes, behind time to see if he comes. He texts us saying, "I'm in traffic. I'm not going to be there for another blah blah blah. Get it rolling." I was like, "All right, sweet." Those people might never see me again. I've never seen any of them, so I'm gonna just give it my best, and obviously go through all your demos and all that sort of stuff. And I sort of just under pressure, I was able to, and sometimes that's where people thrive, is when they're put under pressure. The best comes out of them, and I shocked myself because growing up as the mumble, like 24/7, my parents would be like, probably still do, but like I felt that was going to be my biggest issue. And I done okay, like obviously feedback from members and all that, they knew I was new. Kept working there for a bit, so that worked out really well. And my mate got a bit of feedback. I was PTing in his studio, and I was still going by Josiah Tamasi on Instagram, and I saw mobility drills that I learned slowly creeping into my PT sessions, and I was like, I need to come up with something. I need a name. You don't always need a name, but I was like, I need to come up with something. It needs to be around movement. And I was out of 2 names. It was either Move with Z or Bodies by Z. But I feel like Bodies by Z was more so towards, transformation type things, where I feel aesthetics only last for a certain amount of time. And I thought, I want to be in this game long. I've started this game late, but I want to be in it for a long time. If I do transition into it full time, so I went with Move, so we can always move till the day we die or the day we're bedridden. And I felt like, the whole aesthetic part of it was only, there's certain time on that, because we get all old and saggy, eventually. And so I thought I'll go with the Move with Z, so I can carry that, down. down the track. And then, it started kicking in, like what, more behind the name, which was, dads out there and mums out there not using excuses when, when they're playing with their kids out in the backyard or at the park. I've been with my friends and the kids are wanting to play and
they're sitting on the
chair,
or they're on the phone.
Or the first excuse is like, hey, Dad, come play ball with me. And the first excuse is, grab the hammy, grab the back. And it's like, bro, we want to get rid of that. Imagine, Dad, come play off the ball. Yo, we all get involved. Everyone's not complaining about hamstring or, a back injury from when they played, 20 years ago or whatever it might be. I wanted to change that and start an avenue for that. And then it branched onto, a little motto that, I'm starting to, put out there, which is age is in your ability to move. So for me, I feel there's some 20-year-olds out there that move. There's some, we'll say some 20-year-olds out there that move well behind me as a 33-year-old. That's from the work that I put in, and it should never have to be like that. So if a lot of people say to me, oh, you're playing like you're 20 again. Yeah, I missed out on my whole 20s, so I'm trying to get that back. I'm kind of living in the past. And that's because of my ability to move. So, and that's what, I'm kind of living by. So you could call me, I reckon, a 25-year-old for the way I move, to be honest. And I say that confidently in terms of my sport, and my field. And there's some, youth that I've trained under 20s or in their 20s. They move like worse than the 40-year-old that I train, that I've eventually, got them to move in well. So definitely, age is in your ability to move. So I really want to preach that. I really want to, and that longevity game, it's a trendy thing, longevity, and how can I attack that and reverse age, in terms of movement. So I thought, Move with Z, that's going to be around, for a long time. I feel, even when I get old, that's my goal. Once I start rugby league, is to really tap into mobility and be about what I've just spoken about, like move well into my 40s, move well into my 50s. I know the aesthetic side will come, just clean up diet. I don't have to hold weight for my position that I'm playing at the moment. So it all, pan together, and it's like move. Everyone wants to look good. Well, it's look good, but move better. So you can have the whole package, and I'm sort of just trying to build on that. So I'm only like 3 years into, I guess, the personal training side of things, and that's what I want to build on. And I feel the growth is growing a lot faster than I expected. So, and I've missed the jump a few times with a few things like the reel I told you I put out. The reel I told you I put out, which was a fluke. It was with my athletes, and it was around the hips. It was around them being explosive. No one saw the work behind that, so no one saw the loosening of the hips that we did, the strengthening of the hips that we did, and what's in our online program. But the movement was very unique. It was when they're in the kneeling position, they have to, produce power from their hip, weight overhead. I put that out as a fluke. I just filmed a couple angles and
pieced
put it
together.
out. Yeah, and I was good hook on it. How to build explosive hips. And put that up, and it was like my phone was just going buzzing. Some people were like, "Oh, it's the audio you used," and it's like that. I think for that audio, I think I had the most views. It reached 1 million views for that audio. I think it was the top views for that particular audio. So definitely wasn't the audio. The audio was okay, but not popping off as much. And I think it was the controversy that it caused as well, because there was a lot of tech savvy PTs and coaches. They were like, "Oh, how are you producing power from the hip? There's no extension coming on." And I was like, righto, back to your textbook. And that goes back to me saying, I built that through scars and what I went through. I tried that on myself before I gave it to my clients, and it was something I built, and I knew the logic behind it. So anyone could say what they want to say. If you can produce force from your hip or that area in the lower body without using the floor, if you have the floor behind you once you're trying to produce force, then you're gonna be more powerful. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense, but so it was funny, the hate, and it's funny. Got my first sort of taste of
social media,
and keyboard warriors, and some people were saying, "What's this bullshit?" Some people were saying, "How can you this? How can you that?" I'm calling bullshit. Some were saying this is a joke. Some were saying this is so many red flags. People would message me and say, "Have you seen your video?" Like all the hate that's going. I was like, I don't care. Like I just said, yeah, I don't care. Next, and then I let it simmer for a bit. Like I just let it sit there. I didn't go and get all keyboard happy, because that's just me stooping to their level. I did let some people correct themselves. I let other people from the community correct these people that were passing judgment. And then it got to a point where I was like, you know what, time to reply, because a lot of people like, it'd be nice if the author would reply and correct us. And then so I did. I got called a weekend PT by some people, and that was like, oh yeah, well, I said like 1 million views isn't bad for a weekend PT, like whether you agree with it or not, like and I gave them this whole spiel on okay, I could have done better with explaining what was behind the hips, like the psoas muscle and the hip flexor and abductors and all that kind of stuff, but and being a bit more in depth, and I said, these athletes go on to, they're in their sport, they're getting ready for their pre-season, and a lot of them are having successful pre-seasons, and a lot of those athletes stuck up for me, which was good, and at the end of my whole spiel, it was only one. I said, not bad for a weekend PT. So sort of mic drop and, get out. So, but in saying that, like, yeah, I missed the jump. I would go back to the business side of things. I missed the jump totally. And it moved way too fast. Went from 2,000 followers to 14,000 followers. And I had 600,000 people. I'm not dick measuring or anything, but like, I think it was 600. When you look at the stats, it was 670 odd thousand people go through my page, and I thought, man, I had no links, like no link tree, I had an affiliate.
So leverage.
Yeah, no leverage, and I was like, man, you think you're it, but you're not. You know what I mean? Like you think you're on this right path, but you're really not. Like, and so yeah, missed the jump totally, which is something I'm working on, right now, around a website, landing page, and all that sort of stuff, so people can. They get the free value with the content, and then they are able to purchase programs, then they can be led in the right direction. And I had people from America, Egypt, New Zealand reach out to want to train with me, and I didn't have that system in place, so I missed the jump totally, and some would say I missed the bank, like you know what I mean, and that could have been used to grow the business. So I think I'm a step behind at the moment, but definitely behind the scenes trying to grow that to that next level, which is online. Yeah, I want to try and attack that, and no one really in my circles attacking online hard out. I think so. Yeah, I want to attack that and just be able to reach out to people. Like, why is this person from America asking me to train with me, unless they're trying to scam me? But why are they asking? Is there not something valuable? Do they just want a foreign sort of input or training? So, and it's just experiment with that. When it does drop, and my programs and that, it's definitely going to try and make it unique and try and piece the puzzle together for a lot of people that are still confused around mobility and flexibility, and how can that mobility training help me with my training, because it's just an entree. Troy Savage says it a lot in his content. Mobility is just an entree to for your bigger and more important things in life, like gym, and functional stuff around your day-to-day life. So yeah, Move Z. That's
how it started. Yeah,
that's how it started. And that's where I want to go. I want to help people move well into their 40s and their 50s, and dancing and whatever, moving till the day they drop. So that's a big goal of mine, and
and just following up on that, why continue doing what you're doing with Move Z? I know you mentioned a bit about how it all started, going through F45 and having that pressure to run that class on your own. And then even you just talking a bit about, the social media, going viral and having that bit of, I guess, taste of the keyboard warriors and stuff.
Yeah.
That's pretty much essentially the journey of Move Z. But why do you continue to do it? What keeps you going?
Yeah, probably my kids and just, my kids just wanting to be better and breaking. I do want to break that cycle of showing them there's definitely more to life. And, again, it sounds cliche, but, breaking that cycle and allowing them to know that they can move well. They don't have to, they don't have to go through what I went through and I don't know what the gym was until I was, late into my teens. My son, he knows what the gym is. Like I used to, and he will elaborate on this soon, but I used to take him to the gym at like 4 a.m. in the morning, and people would call me crazy. Like they'd be like, "What are you doing?" That's like neglect. Like, had to stop it because like the social welfare are knocking at my door. Nah, jokes. But I had to. It was just, and I was watching stuff like The Rock. Like The Rock, his dad used to take him into the gym, but it was just to absorb. It wasn't to. And I thought, a lot of people use the excuse of a lot of people use the excuse of, I got my kid, I got my son, and at the time, at the time I had him a lot. At the time I had him a lot in the weekends and that, and I didn't want it to stop training, so I'll just bring him along, and the boys will see me bring him to 4 a.m., 5 a.m. sessions, and I still do here and there, but not as often as I did. So he knows what hard work. He's gonna know that Dad was in the gym putting in work, whether it was for, at the time it wasn't PT, but it was just to try and play rugby league. So that was actually a goal. Keep it down, as I'm gonna get kicked out. That was a goal. Actually, a goal of mine was to play. So I got to play on the same field as my son. I coached and raised for him.
Yeah.
So I wanted to keep playing. That was another thing, a goal that I ticked off. I wanted to keep playing long enough that he can see me play, and he's been playing since he was 4. And a few years ago, under 7s at Wenny, he played after us. So it was at St Mary's, and we played, and then they played after us, and that was like we played on the same field. Not many people can say they did that. So that was a massive tick, and he knows that that I work hard, and most mornings I'm not there, and most nights I'm not there. So, and he knows, he's always like, "Dad, you got work tomorrow, you got this tomorrow," and that's like a whole nother thing to touch on, like full-time job. PT is not even sort of that, and we're working a lot, and I went through a lot of that last year, and I had to, I don't know if we can dive into that. That's, deep. I was working the full-time job last year. I'm on a break now, but I was just touch on schedule and probably more so saying this because it's possible. You just got to be willing. I've seen other people in my boat, and around the hustle, it's so tough, especially having a wife, kids, newborns, working a full-time job, and then starting a new career as well. That sounds like enough, and then having to decide to keep playing rugby league as well. So chucking that in there, and then I haven't spoke about myself, so trying to work on myself. And I had days where, man, up at 2:45, 3 a.m, 4 a.m. session, couple of clients, and then go to my full-time job around about 9 or just before then, do my 8 hours, have a couple of clients, and then go pick up my son from childcare or whatever it might be, get home at like 8:30, and that's on a night where I'm not playing footy. So chuck footy into that. I have to take him to training, and obviously I mentioned wife. So she, last year she had to miss out on a lot. But I told her, this is, if I want to grow, I want to grow. And 2023 was, I guess Michael Jordan season, last dance, but it was more like a last chance for me. So, give it my all, and I had to make sure, that I came out on top with all of it. And I just scraped in there. I reckon I was hanging on to my marriage, just hanging on to my relationship with my kid, just hanging on to rugby league. I managed that pretty well. Then the going into box class, which I haven't touched on, with 0 members at Smead and Grange, like got given the opportunity to help start up that back up. And it was 0 members, and that was tough. I was taking my daughter to those sessions, taking my daughter, to classes, and they had a creche there, and that was because I wanted to grow the PT. And so I went through those hard yards as you do with PT, and sometimes members wouldn't come to classes. And why I'm saying classes is because, I didn't have any PTs at the time. So, had to grow from that. And I went through the tough times, man. You imagine, taking your kid to class, but they need to sleep, and they're whinging, and they shit just before you drop them off. And it's just all that pressure. Just got through it, man. And I feel like, it was so busy, but playing footy, cleared my mental. So I got, a release there. And I feel like if anyone missed out, or 2 people missed out, it was probably my son last year and my wife. So I think I was just filling those cups. So, filling that family cup, just, that physical, in terms of training, rugby league, and my full-time job. I reckon I could have done better, which is, this year.
Yep.
Number mentality, be better than, season 24, be better than your previous self. So I want to be better than last year. And and I've testimony to that. I've stopped PTing on Tuesdays, take my son to footy, and, so it's just about being better, and, relationships better. Everything's just about being better, and now, growing this year. So, last year was tough. It was tough in terms of being busy. Some people are, how do you do it?
Yeah.
Some people get shocked when they find out I had a full-time job, and and that's I deal with alcohol, so it goes hand in hand with PT work. So yeah,
that's crazy. What I want to do, because I know he's been waiting to jump on, get your son on. Come jump on.
Swap seats. Is that alright? Can't be silly. You sit up straight.
If you want, bring it down. Just go like this. Just bring. Yeah, so you just twist it.
This.
Yeah, that part, and you just bring it down. And we'll just make sure that you're in the camera.
Right.
Guys, it's very unfiltered too. Oh, other way. So just face. Yeah. There we go. Look at you, man.
Can they still be in it?
Yeah.
We'll just make sure we don't say anything bad about that.
Yeah. So for those that they're listening, like, this was actually a request from Zia, but I wanted to get this on too. So do you want to just mention your name? What's your name?
My name is Josiah.
How do you spell it?
Hazaiah.
Hectic. Well, first question I want to ask you is, how did you last an hour being quiet?
I don't know.
Well, you tell me, was it, because I remember you were talking to Dad and you were saying that you were wanting to jump on the phone and stuff. Like, how did you'd actually done quite well, in my opinion. Obviously, Dad might have a different opinion on that, but how did you stay quiet?
Because if I didn't stay quiet, my dad would bash me.
Yeah.
Told you not to throw it.
Nah, hey, I just want to ask you one question, and it's about your dad, right? And the question is, how much of an impact, or how much has your father helped you in terms of being the person you are today? Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to just share? Has Dad been... Do you see him as the best dad? Do you see him...
He was the best dad.
Yeah. How?
Because he trains me a lot, and we train at footy, and we do pull-ups and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. And what's one thing that you love the most about being around Dad?
We watch movies together.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favourite.
Yeah. That's cool. And I just want to ask one question before we get Dad on. Is I'm not going to ask it. I was going to ask a different question now. I'll just keep it simple. If there's one thing that you want to do that Dad does, what would it be in the future? Like when you grow up?
be a good footy player. Like
Yeah.
that.
Do you reckon you'll be better than Dad?
No.
Yeah. Well, is there anything you want to share before we let you go? Do you want to share anything? You're just happy that you're not at school now.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, you done a good job, bro. All right, we'll get Dad back on.
Do you have something to say or not?
Yeah. Now, first thing I will commend your son on is the fact that, yeah, if you think about patience and you think about the kids nowadays with like technology and stuff, like he done exceptionally well. Obviously different because I'm not in his world. I'm not in your world 24/7. So obviously if he did be different, he's probably gonna be cocky about it later on.
Yeah,
but we'll suss it out. Do you want to just put them up? Yeah.
He, one thing I didn't want him to do was throw me under the bus.
Yeah.
I don't really bash him. So
Good job, bro. So yeah, he's definitely a reason why you keep going, why you keep doing this.
Yeah, because he's without a doubt, he made me a father. So, yeah, that's obviously I have my daughters now as well. But
it was a stepping stone for you, eh?
Yeah, no, yeah, stepping stone 100%, and he's a good kid. He's respectful and has manners, and that's the one main thing that I hope that sticks with him is just that he's respectful and treats people the way he wants to be treated, and just make sure he's a good person before anything else.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. I appreciate you for jumping on too, bro. You're like the youngest one that's been on this podcast. But yeah, we're gonna start landing the plane now with this podcast, and it's funny. Like I had an agenda and I had a goal, to look behind the brand and behind the business and stuff. But essentially, this is what Behind the Brand is all about: is getting the stories out there. People that are people within Western Sydney that are doing a business and running a brand behind the scenes, and looking at who they truly are. And I just wanted to ask one question before we land the plane, which is, there are like our biggest audience that we're looking at targeting is people that either want to start a business or that want to grow their business. And so if there was any actionable advice that you could provide for those out there based on your journey, what would it be?
I told myself I wasn't going to say cut him out.
No, hey, you actually done really well. Like I spotted it out, so good job.
So for me, and I'm real young in the really young in the business, but a lot of people talk about failing. Like a lot of people do talk about if the more you fail, the better it'll make you, down the track. But I believe that don't be shy to leapfrog all that. You don't have to fail. Be smart and learn off, the influences out there and the wrongs that they did and the mistakes they made, and even your circle, the mistakes that your friends have made. Try to learn off that, leapfrog that, and you might limit the amount of mistakes that you make along the way. You might still make mistakes, but it's not going to be as much as what you would have made if you didn't have that mindset of I'm gonna not do what he did, because obviously you start on the back foot if you're going to go down that path or that mentality. But another one would be a kid again. And why I say be a kid again is be curious. So as kids, we're really curious, and have that mindset to be curious, to to say and do, like, if I go down this path, where's that going to lead me? Okay, is it a good, is it good for my business? Then execute it. So those two: be curious and execute. Don't sit on stuff too long. Don't sit on the fence too long. Execute. And why I say execute is because something I struggle with. And I struggle with sitting on ideas, and there's a lot of ideas in my head and in my iPhone notes that I just haven't executed, and it might be something that was relevant last year, but it's not relevant anymore because I've seen someone else do it. It's not to say that when I see that idea, oh, that guy stole my idea, or that guy was watching me, so it's just about execute, because someone in your same path could be thinking about the same ideas, and he might execute that same idea before you do. So don't miss the jump, and that's what learned, kind of the hard way in my early stages. So be curious and execute and try to learn from other people's mistakes, so you don't have to make as many.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be my...
The way I see it is, if you're a smart person, you would, learn from your own mistakes and try and get out of it. But if you're wise, you'll learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah.
And never get into it in the first place. So it's a really, really good way to end it off. Bro, thank you so much, A, for jumping on. But before we finish off, there's actually, and you already know what's coming now because you've listened to the podcast. But as part of Behind the Brand, I guess our culture is the previous, special guest, they ask a question for you. And so our previous special guest that jumped on, the question for you is there an insecurity or limiting belief that is holding you back to taking your business to the next level? And if so, why? And by the way, you'll have the question, like you'll ask the question for the next
Yeah, that's
person.
a really good question. And shout out to Mike for leaving me on scene. I asked him, I said, hey, what's the question? And that was all I wrote to him in a group chat because we were talking about something else. I said, what's the question? And he left me on scene. So thanks, bro. You did the right thing. So what's insecurities that are limiting me from growing?
Yeah, from holding you, like what's holding you back from taking your business to the next level?
Being scared to jump. Yeah, I think being scared to jump with the amount of pressure on my shoulders, like as dads, like as men, we have to carry the world on our shoulders, and that's with kids, family, income. I think that's I can label that as an insecurity because I'm worried about if I make this, I'm too worried about if I make this jump then I fail, and all sorts of things can happen from that, and that's being afraid to jump and being afraid to, back to what I said, is to execute is stopping me from growing. I think so. I think I really do think I need to move fast. Execute fast. Bring ideas to life. And would you say that's an insecurity or no? Are you looking for something?
No, yeah. I'll probably consider that.
Usually when people say insecure, they think of something physical. I don't think of any. Don't know if that was the answer we were looking for. So
Definitely. The good thing about when we get other guests to ask the question is that it gets them involved. Gets them to feel more part of the brand. So that's all it is, man. So.
Actually, like, you know what? Actually, probably my vocab, like, and probably that's something I'm insecure about, and mumbling a lot when I talk. And why I'm insecure about that is because I used to be so scared about hearing my voice, just like everyone else. But mine was more so, is everyone gonna understand what I'm saying? Because I feel like words in that process too fast in my head to come out. I don't know how to articulate that, all my words. So going into the online space, I think probably insecure about that, because once you start dealing with, who knows where the online space could take me into the executive world where, Move with Z might have to have a sub brand of, for executives and, high profile people, and if I can't articulate my words, then I'm going to get eaten alive, and it's going to be a failure straight away because I'm dealing with these high profile people that have multi-million-dollar companies, and not saying that I'll ever get in front of those kind of people, but if I do, I need to be ready, and I need to be able to articulate my words and grow my vocabulary, and that's just, I guess, something that I've noticed a lot, and feedback I've got from some people as well. So definitely grow that, and learn to open up my mouth wider.
Nah, bro, appreciate it, man. Appreciate the question. So obviously after this, we'll get you a question for the next person that jumps on. But we're gonna wrap it up, man. We're currently 1:30 in. An hour and 30 in, man.
I heard Mike's one, and I was like, man, that was long.
Yeah.
But then geez.
You understand now.
Yeah.
You understand yourself.
I understand it big time.
No, definitely. I definitely know that this won't be the last time we do this, because there's definitely a lot more that we can get into. But we'll land the plane now. But before we thank everyone out there for tuning in, if there are people out there that want to connect more with you, what's the best way that they can connect, or even just do work with you?
Yeah, probably for now it's Instagram. So I don't really deal with Facebook at the moment. So Instagram, it's at move_with_Z on Instagram. So yeah, you'll find me on there, and probably gonna jump on TikTok soon. Like, the guy, the digital marketing guy I'm dealing with now, he wants me to jump on TikTok, and he sees a lot of potential there just around building following, and I guess there's probably some value and I didn't really want to say it on there, but I will. And so LinkedIn hasn't been tapped into, and no one in my circle has been speaking about LinkedIn, and that's about getting in front of those high profile people. That is a totally different ball game, and because it was someone that reached out to me on Instagram, and some guy that's made it work and a millionaire, and he's like, potential, the mobility and strength area is growing and there's not much competition, so give LinkedIn a go. And he's given me some courses in that, and so that's something I might play around with, either sink or swim. And so LinkedIn's untapped, LinkedIn's untapped, so try tap into that, into that space. So at the moment Instagram,
sweet
plug at the moment.
Yeah, so for those out there that are listening to this on YouTube, make sure you guys look down in the description down below. You'll see that. The link will be there. If you're on Spotify, make sure you guys check out our Instagram page, and you'll be able to connect through with Smooth with C. But that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you all for those out there that are tuning in. Thank you, Josiah Tamasi, a.k.a. Zaya, a.k.a. Z. Thank you so much for jumping on, bro. And appreciate you for taking out your time.
Nah, thank you so much, and appreciate what you're doing here, bro, and blessing to definitely meet you and open up the horizon for, I guess, both of us, and very blessed, bro. So thank you to you and Nick. Big ups, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so that's it, guys. That's all we got. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next one.